This is Creative Banter, and not having a proper introduction last week, that just felt weird. Yeah, it's a bit more work to include them, but it's fun trying to tie everything together. And speaking of fun, this week we are joined by a very special guest, as we discuss the Thanksgiving holiday and how time simply flies by without a care in the world. We talk about social media no longer being all that personal, and how blogging could be a way for me to share the photographs taken on my Ricoh. Again, we find ourselves thinking about the ideal creative life, which, for Ben, involves flooded kayaks and blueberry cream pie, as the money simply rolls on in. Let's dive right into this, shall we?
So normally we have, it's just the two of us, but today I do have Oliver in my lap, so we shall see how this goes. He's pretty worn out today. We went over to my wife's aunt and uncle's house for dinner last night, and they've been fostering some rescue dogs that come up from Mexico. And there's one dog that he's met the dog many times before, and it's a young dog that's very active. And Oliver holds his own and loves playing with the dogs, but he got thoroughly wiped out by playing with the other dog.
How old is Oliver now?
He is a little over 3.5.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. So he's very, very active. He's kind of beyond his puppy energy phase, but he's still a pretty high energy dog. But he's wiped out from that and just chilling in my lap right now on a kind of a little bit of a stormy day here in San Diego. Not a lot of rain, but cloudy, windy. I'm watching the trees blow outside, so I think we'll get a little rain out of this, which will be nice. A little change of pace.
Sounds like you're doing an introduction for an ASMR video right now.
I know, right? just petting the dog, the wind outside, the trees, everything going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's nice. How was your? Well, I should say that we're recording this a week after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
But how was your Thanksgiving and everything?
It was all right. I mean, it was nice being over. So for Thanksgiving, I go over to my girlfriend's parents' house for all that. Been doing that for the past couple of years now, and I mean, it's socializing. I'd rather not do it. But it was nice at least this year because we brought Emmy over. So everybody got to see Emmy. She got to be completely wiped out, completely drained of all of her energy by all the people and everything.
Yeah.
And gave me an excuse to stay away from people and oh, sorry, Emmy needs to nap. I'm just chilling over here in my corner.
Gotta go do dog things, it's very important. Yeah,
exactly. Unfortunately, because it's my girlfriend's parents, though, and it's at their house, it wasn't like I could use Emmy as an excuse of, oh, sorry, we got to get going early. I know. It's just, it didn't really work out that way. But
yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, it was nice. It was the usual kind of thing. So, how about you?
Yeah, it was. We had a smallish group. My wife and I went over to my parents' house, and then my aunt and uncle were there, so it was 6 of us. But it was good. Good weather. It was a pretty nice day. Started getting a little cloudy toward the end and kind of rained overnight, but it was a really nice day. But it's weird. I mean, I was just thinking before we started recording that, I'm like, man, it's Thursday again. It was like it's been a week since Thanksgiving. It feels like it's been only like a few days or so.
Oh, I know. I mean, Thanksgiving came around and the day before it felt like Halloween.
Yeah.
And by tomorrow it's going to feel like Christmas, and just this time of year just flies by. I mean, I even think of, so my girlfriend moved in back in July or so with me. And since then, just how time's been flying by. Yeah,
I'm not a fan of of things going the rate that they are. On Monday, it was a really beautiful day. Sunny, blue skies, a little bit of wind, but not too bad. And I was looking at the weather forecast for the week and saw that, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, there's going to be a chance of some rain and some wind and stuff. So I'm like, all right, I got to go for a bike ride. So I decided to do the same general route that I did the week before, which is from Mission Bay here in San Diego all the way up to Carlsbad and back. And then I figured if I had a little extra energy, I'd do like a little loop around Fiesta Island. And when I was starting the ride, I'm like, I don't feel like I have the energy to take on, something that big right now. But I decided just to kind of like, and I was debating whether I should even do that at all. But I decided to push myself just to do that. And I figured I'm not gonna like try to be super fast. I'm just going to take my time, gonna kind of enjoy it. And I ended up doing 65 miles that day.
Wow.
And also, I was like one of the fastest people out that day, which was kind of unusual. And, from the start point of me being like, oh man, I just don't think I have it in me. But then toward the end of it, yeah, I was kind of pushing myself kind of hard. But that got me thinking a little bit about the discussions that we've had with your website and Hugo and everything. And there's also been a lot of people chiming in over on the Discord.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. So and it seems like the general consensus with a lot of people that are commenting is that maybe Hugo would require maybe too much of a time investment in learning that. And some people are saying just start it on Squarespace or this or that. So I'm really curious to hear your take based on some of the conversations and some of the comments and everything from some of the listeners who have contributed.
Yeah, so I know I didn't really comment anything back to them, but I've been reading everything that's been said about it and just kind of collecting my own thoughts with it. I kind of go, like everything with me, I go back and forth all the time with things.
Yeah.
I really do want to play around more with like Hugo or Astro, or there's a CMS called Kirby that's more like developer sided based, which I think would be probably the best solution as a whole. And I'm in talks with someone, intermittently at least, about how to get started with that and play around with that. But in the meantime, I did go ahead and rehaul my my Squarespace website, or at least I am in the process of revamping the homepage, trying out a new essays layout and everything for those pages. And I have a couple different plans in place when it comes to that kind of stuff. So I at least have it to a point where I'm relatively happy with how it's going to look and how it's going to perform or act.
That's good.
So we'll go from there and see what happens. But the plan right now, so the one thing that I was thinking about when it came to Kirby, there's a blogger named Manuel Morial. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, as usual. I'll send you over in the chat his website here. Where are we at? There. So he goes by Manu, and he's really just a blogger when it comes down to it. Mm-hmm. Blogs a lot about minimalism. He helps out on a couple different websites, coding, that kind of thing. And I found his website, which if you go onto it, and I'll have a link in the show notes, it's very, very minimal. Like there's no...
it looks like a book out of it looks like a page out of a book or something.
Yeah, there's no top navigation menu or anything, no home buttons, no name at the top, anything like that. Everything's down at the bottom, and even then there's no home button. So if you go and you scroll down and click on like one of his November's thoughts is called Conversation Enders, and if you click on that and you want to go home, you have to click on the title again to take you home. It was really weird to start navigating, but nonetheless, I was reading through a lot of his blog posts and figuring out what he all does, and I just found myself enjoying that kind of thing of the blog aspect of it, which all ties back into my desire for writing and trying to figure out what I want to do in terms of like weekly articles or long form pieces or anything like that.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I would like to play around with Kirby and see how that is, and I'm hoping that he can help me a little bit with it. But for now, the idea, at least, is to kind of do a long-form essays and blog at the same time on my website.
Yeah.
There's another guy, Robin Rendell, and he also does a lot when it comes to notes, is what he calls his. And it's just him blogging, talking about like his mental state, his using AI generated images, people in blogs, all that kind of thing. And again, with his, it's very heavily coded. It's he's a coder for work, so obviously he knows all of this kind of stuff. And yeah, so all of this to say that revamp the Squarespace site. I plan on launching that through probably this weekend or so.
Nice.
Which will be, for those listening, this isn't going to be out for a little bit because of the holiday season and everything with the magazine getting busy. I didn't get around to editing last time's episode, so we're a little bit behind here. But nonetheless, I'm hoping by the first weekend of December that this website relaunch will be up and running and just kind of start playing around with like blogging maybe once, twice, 3 times a week, just throwing 250, 500 words out there just on random thoughts, kind of as a way to open up the garage door behind the process. Especially around the longer form essays, because those are things that are going to take me quite a while, but I kind of feel weird being silent, like just having radio static for so long, and then all of a sudden throwing something out there, especially when I don't have like a huge audience to support that. So yeah, that's the plan right now. We'll see how it goes, but just kind of sharing behind the scenes, sharing my thought processes, my daily life, maybe having each like one picture from my daily life or of Emmy or of whatever to end each blog post, so I can get those out there too. So
yeah, I think that'd be really good, because just kind of like I was thinking about while doing the cycling thing, where it was just like, you know, I didn't think I had the energy to do it, but once I started doing that, and once I kind of made this decision to do that, somehow, you know, the energy came there. I mean, it was the sort of thing where, you know, I think like with you, if you're just doing those like little, you know, small entries at a time and just putting the stuff out there and building that muscle memory and everything else, you know, that will probably be a very good thing that allows you to start taking on some of the larger tasks.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like kickstarting the habit of, if I know that even if it's just once a week that I'm posting something onto my notes or blog section, it's still, okay, I'm going to write something short and quick and sweet and get it out there and build up that consistent habit of journaling and everything too. Can ultimately help to make sure that I am very used to writing on a regular basis and kind of getting my, knowing how to collect my thoughts and put them out there in a succinct manner.
Yeah.
So,
and like anything else, it's like, you know, going to the gym or whatever stuff. It's about building those habits that then build upon themselves.
Yeah.
And like, for example, one of my goals in, I don't know, the next month or two, at some point in that range, we'll see. I do want to do a 100-mile ride. And so, but if I were to do it right now, it would kill me. Not literally, but like, I would just, like, my body would be in shock.
Yeah.
So I've just been building up to it a little bit at a time, where the ride I went on 2 weeks ago was 56 miles. The one this time was 65 miles. I'm going to try to push it up to about 80 or so. But each time I learn a little something more about, you know, how much I should be, you know, eating and drinking and refueling and everything and while out there. And also part of it's just a matter of like my body just getting used to that. So just building up to the larger stuff. So I think in that same sense, you know, doing those smaller entries will build that up for you to the point where then when you want to take on some of the larger projects, it won't be as intimidating. It's just, you know, taking that first step, and that first step is oftentimes a kind of a smaller step. And so, so I think that's good. I'm glad that you have that stuff in the works, and that you'll have the Squarespace set up, at least initially, and who knows what the future will hold. But but I think that'll allow you to take those early steps and get working on that project.
Yeah. So, and this is all also kind of like the whole notes and blogging thing is also it was sort of brought on by this thought process that I had of social media not really being all that social anymore.
Very true. Yeah.
It's one of those. So another writer that I follow is Simon Saris, and I think I brought him up before, but he lives up in New Hampshire. He's also a coder by day or programmer, I think is the correct terminology, but he shares a lot of his personal life on Instagram and social media, his kids growing up, the stuff that he's building around his house, and the gardening and everything that he's doing. And I was thinking of this before. We, especially as photographers, don't often share much about our personal lives. If you look at any photographer out there, it's pretty much just their photographs on their Instagram, and that's it, using it as like a portfolio.
Yeah, it's more of like a business kind of arrangement in a way.
Yeah. And when I think of the people that I admire the most, that I would really like to connect with and have some sort of acquaintanceship or relationship with, it's the people that are more willing to put themselves out there and more willing to share themselves, even if it's as silly as like you with your spandex and puppies and all that kind of stuff. It's still sharing more of your side of the world and the person behind the lens than anything else. I mean,
yeah.
And obviously there's an extent to which you can be sharing too much. I mean, some of the stuff that you see on social media these days, nobody has a filter and shares everything about themselves. But
exactly, yeah.
But at the same time, I just think of you think of how social media started, especially Instagram, and the fact that it was taking pictures of your food and your daily life and sharing it with friends and that kind of deal. And I don't know, I just and I think about the photographs that I'm taking with the Ricoh, but they're not going anywhere because it's not something that I would put in my portfolio, because no one's going to really want a 8x10 or 16x20 print of Emmy's face while she's eating a bone or something. I mean, if you do, I have plenty, so let me know.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Still, they don't go anywhere, so they're just stuck on SD cards or hard drives, and it kind of feels, I don't know, wasteful, maybe. So I'm kind of debating my approach on social media in that regard, and definitely plan on, like I said, when I'm doing these blog posts, just one picture or so at the end of it that kind of relates to whatever I may be talking about that week, just to kind of share more of my personal life, especially because of what I plan on writing about in these blog posts, in these long form essays, everything else that I do is a lot about more of like a memoir sort of focus, more of my mental health and that kind of deal. And I don't think it would be right to share like my mental health stories and then keep everything else secret, like that I have a girlfriend for the past 10 years. I mean, kind of weird not to put out, oh, here's a photo of Emmy and my girlfriend, not put that out, but at the same time put out that I've struggled with mental health and depression, and here's my deep, dark thoughts that I try to hide. So a weird little juxtaposition there. But yeah, so I don't know. It's all just kind of where my head's at right now with everything.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up some good points, because when it comes to the various social media platforms, they all kind of end up taking on their own different twists on things. For a while, I was on Facebook. I got rid of my account on there a long time ago, so I haven't been on there. But it seems like Facebook is generally where people are a little more. I mean, they're not going to be. I think that's where people will try to make their life seem great. They're not going to share the bad things. They'll share the good things, and then their wonderful political views and such. But but then Twitter and Instagram and all these other platforms have such different takes. For me, I find that the Instagram stories seem to have sort of the best quick way of getting to know someone. I mean, it seems like a lot of photographers, yes, I mean, they're going to post as far as the actual images on Instagram. Yeah, that's going to be more the portfolio work. But it seems like a lot of photographers in the stories, that's where all the kind of more fun stuff goes in terms of, getting to know them more and that kind of stuff. But there's no real, record of that. And since they do disappear after a while. But even then, it's still a bit like Facebook, where people just, share the highlights, the best things,
and then
all that kind of stuff.
The problem with the stories too is like, so obviously on mine, I share pictures of Emmy and the dogs and that kind of thing. And then even if you do the highlights, then if somebody misses out on a story or wants to go back to it, they're tapping forever to try and get through everything. And then it's like from the creator side of it, how many posts or how many stories is too much for one highlight.
Exactly. When it becomes like a little tiny dotted line with like I don't even know anymore, just little ticks,
I don't even know how mine presents when you click on for Emmy. I just keep adding to it and adding to it. I'm like, eventually someone will be like, dude, put another one up, please. Start deleting some of those. But yeah, I mean, the stories is a nice, like you say, it's a nice touch. It's a nice way to get to know somebody, but only to a certain extent.
Yeah. It's not until you have something that's more long form, be it writing, be it a podcast, anything like that, where I think the more of that sort of nuance comes out, where it's not, just, not glossing over the negative stuff and only to show, the cool positive stuff. But yeah, that's, it just seems like that's not really compatible with social media and for the super narrow attention spans and everything else, which certainly comes into play as well.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, all just things that are going through my mind throughout the past few days or weeks or so. So I try and figure things out, because I still feel at odds with social media. Like if this blog thing truly works out more and it's something that I can be more consistent with, then I could absolutely see myself getting off social media again and nixing it all. Just come subscribe to my newsletter, come subscribe to my RSS feed on my website or something, and go from there. Because I don't know. I mean, the last time that I posted on social media on Instagram, like an actual post, was the 16th, I think, of November. Yeah, I just don't have the motivation to. And I think a part of that comes into the fact that I set myself up with the first 3 posts of these long captions and everything that I enjoy reading or enjoy writing, but they're a lot of work. And right now I am swamped with stuff for the magazine and for everything else in my life. So it kind of feels like more work than the couple of likes and a little bit of attention that it might actually get me.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you got to look at something like Instagram as just kind of a way of reaching out to, I don't know, it's a way of putting stuff out there that will at some point hopefully get people to whatever platform it is that you'll have more in-depth stuff on, be it Squarespace or whatever you have later down the line. And I think it's also the sort of thing where like for example, if there's an advertisement for something on TV, it's not a lot of people are necessarily going to go out at that point in time and buy that thing because, I saw an ad for a car, so I'm going to buy a car. But, if that car dealer is constantly putting ads out, at some point later down the line, if you're looking for a car, you think of that car dealer. Whereas with, social media, if you have a bit of a presence on there, I think it just puts you at a little bit of more of the forefront of people's minds when it comes to some of the other projects and, checking to see what you've been working on and stuff like that. So I do see the investment in time in it as being beneficial, just so long as one is doing it for the right reasons. And I'm still surprised at times when I hear how there are people that are trying to, I'm not gonna say game the system, but they're trying to work with whatever strategies to get like the biggest return from social media and this and that. And whenever I see that, I'm like, man, that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I have no desire for that.
I think one of the most recent trends that's been sticking around for a bit is, and I may have mentioned it before, but when you are you see like a lot of people using these reels and I'm going to share a photo a day on reels or on here until I finally get to X amount of subscribers or whatever it is. And it's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's all just, I think my disdain when it comes to social media and all of that is partially because it's always been bad for my mental health, and the amount of screen time that my screen time has seen a massive uptick since downloading social media again, which isn't exactly beneficial for me.
So what kind of screen time are you looking at now?
Let me check it quick. It's actually lower than what it's been a little while ago, like back when we last talked about it. I'm at about 3 hours daily.
Oh, that's significantly lower. But I wonder if that's also because you've been doing all of the NPN stuff and you've been working on some other stuff along those lines. It's been keeping busy during those times.
Yeah, that's definitely because of going back a few weeks going through November 5th to the 12th, my average was around 5 hours for the week, 5 hours each day for the week. And it's, so right around 5 hours each day for all of the month, which isn't exactly great.
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of that is like working on the podcast and playing a game aside of me or something like that. But still, like, I think of all the time that I just absentmindedly am looking at my phone at night when I have all these books to read. So like all those 10 minutes.
They're just stacked up around the bed, just like overhanging the bed, staring down at you.
Yeah, exactly. threatening to fall down in the middle of the night and crush me in my sleep.
Yeah.
But like all those 5-10 minute stints of time where I'm scrolling through Instagram or doing whatever, and like I could be doing something more productive here. And all of this, just like I think of all of this, and I also think of like my ideal creative life. And again, another topic that's just so pervasive past few months. And I know that I keep mentioning it on here and elsewhere, but still it's that idea that, do I really want to be doing all of this business stuff and focusing so heavily on the business and marketing side of everything on this? Or do I want to more focus on the creative side and let things come along as in a slow growth kind of thing?
But you kind of have to do both.
And you do, right? And I'm not disagreeing with that, but I think a lot of us get caught up into that idea of, I want to be a full-time photographer yesterday, not tomorrow.
Yeah.
And for me, like a lot of this stuff is, I want to be doing things for myself. I know that my photography is not for everybody. I know that there are people listening to this podcast that aren't a fan of my photography, but are a fan of yours or of our conversations in general. And that's okay. I'm not saying otherwise, but it's one of those things, like I said before, that the more that I think about things, the more I am kind of looking towards some sort of in-between of kind of liking the idea of teaching and doing my writing and photography on the side more than trying to make a go at it for a sustainable income, because of all of not just because of all the work that goes into it, but because the competition is so steep. And if you really do want to make a really good living off of everything, at least from the looks of it from the outset, it looks like you have to be following all the trends and you have to be doing what other people want, in terms of photographing color, in terms of photographing grand vistas and these big scenes that people are going to want to hang in their houses, especially if you're looking at print sales. So obviously there are ways around that, but still, I don't know. The more that I think about it, the more okay I am with the idea of, I'm going to go and, I don't know, keep with teaching. I'm going to put in my 8 hours teaching. I'm going to come home and I'm going to work on this big project, these long form essays that I want to do. And I'm going to put these out in the world and I'm going to slowly build up an audience through that. And then maybe someday I can package together this real nice Craig Mod style, high-end fine arts book and sell it for $150 each or something. And I don't know, sell 1,000 copies of it because I have that audience, because I've built up that audience over time. Yeah. Instead of,
does he sell prints individually, or is it mostly the books and such?
Intermittently, he does.
Okay. But it's not a major part of his his income.
No, he's got one. Right now, he has 2 prints for sale that are available. He has one called the Cutter. That's a limited edition of 100 signed A4 prints. So something like 8.5 by 11 size paper, whatever. Okay. And he's selling those for like $150 plus shipping. So it's
pretty reasonable, yeah.
But it's definitely not his. It's not like his thing. It's not something that he really goes out and markets a whole ton of. I mean, he only has 2 prints available in his shop. Yeah.
And you know, going back to some of the when you'd mentioned some of the more businessy side of things, I will say that for some of the stuff that's involved when it comes to you know, making an income from photography, some of that stuff actually can be kind of enjoyable. Which, like, for example, like when I do like the accounting sort of stuff, or like, you know, like entering all the stuff in. Like on paper, it seems like it should really suck, but it's actually kind of, because it's like organizing things, and there's some joy that comes from that. So that's something that I think that some people are just like, oh man, you know, the thought of having to do all the back end work and this and that, and they just want to be out, you know, taking pictures and this and that. But you know, honestly, if I'm just, you know, sitting in my home office, if it's a rainy day, I got the windows open, get the sound of rain outside, I'm doing some accounting stuff, I'm like, oh, this is good life. And I was also thinking, because I actually started packing the first of the portfolio orders. There was so the zines have shipped from the printer, and they are arriving the Tuesday after we're recording this. And once they arrive, I'll be able to start shipping out a good chunk of the orders for people that ordered both the zine and the portfolio. But I went through the list of everyone that ordered the portfolios without the zine, and I went ahead and actually shipped those out on like a few days ago. So those will have arrived by the time people hear this. But it was interesting because I went through and it was about 20 orders for the portfolio without the zine, which means, you know, 100 some of the orders for the portfolio also included the zine.
Damn.
Which I was really surprised by.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Yeah. And I mean, who knows what'll happen next year? Maybe people will look at it and be like, yeah, this wasn't worth it. You know, this, what kind of book is this? You know?
Oh, come on. We all know that, you know, the number of people that will look at it and be like, that wasn't worth it. That's going to be very few. I mean, especially based on the audience that you've built up. I mean, everybody, they wouldn't have bought it if they didn't think that it was going to be worth it.
Yeah, hopefully. But yeah, can you imagine if there's like a centerfold of like a dead ponderosa tree? Like people like, they just keeps opening, you know? But yeah, it was really cool to see that, especially when, you know, trying something new and trying something different and not really knowing how it's going to go. But when I was going through and I was packing those orders, it was incredibly satisfying, and not just from a standpoint of like, oh, these are orders and stuff, but just from the standpoint of like, I have all the packing materials laid out. I take the portfolio, I wrap it in like the tissue paper, I put it in one box, I kind of wrap it up and put that in another box and wrap it up. But just like everything like folding together, it was almost therapeutic in a very strange way, which I was not really anticipating. So sometimes those sort of non-photography, businessy, back-endy kind of stuff is actually kind of nice. So there's that aspect as well. And I think when sometimes people think of being a photographer, they just picture like, oh, you must be out taking pictures all the time. It's like, no, I would not want that. I just, to me, that would be too much, to the point where, you know, if you start gathering too many images and you're not really giving each image enough time to get to know that image, I think that becomes a negative part of the process. So it is about finding that degree of balance. But I do think that your approach, as you're mentioning, your potential approach of of, perhaps having the day job and then doing this stuff as well, it'll lead to you being even more motivated to pursue what it is that you really want to do, because you'll have limited time to work on what it is that you want to. And that tends to make people, focus a bit more. So that could perhaps be a good thing. I mean, I know that was the case for me when I was working the day job and trying to do the photo stuff. And that certainly led in a very good and spandexy direction. So,
yeah, I think the other thing here too is all of these thoughts are culminating at a time where I have so much time on my hands. Yeah. And though obviously it doesn't really feel that way a lot of the time, it will often feel like, oh, I don't have nearly enough hours in the day to get done everything I need, watch puppies, go to the gym, do all this other kind of stuff that I might have to do around the house, and still find the time to put together a photography presentation or an ebook or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that plays a big part into it too. But like you say about like the back end stuff and all of that and the enjoyment from that, today and yesterday, I spent a combined 9 hours so far just working on layout for Nature Vision magazine's the issue 3.
Yeah.
And
that's a lot of time.
It's not even done yet. I still have 2 interviews to put in. I still have David's publisher's welcome that he needs to get to me. And the featured project and a few other little tidbits here and there that still need to be put in. So it's probably going to be another close to 5 or 6 hours going into everything. But that all sounds like a lot, and that all sounds really boring to stare at a computer screen. But I was thinking about it today. I'm like, I really, really enjoy doing this stuff. Yeah. Like, I love playing in the layout sphere of an ebook or a magazine or whatever you want to call it. And then I was thinking too, like, if I enjoy this stuff so much, why the hell aren't I making ebooks more regularly? Yeah. Like, I say right now that I enjoy doing this stuff, enjoy putting together these articles and figuring out the layout of, oh, where's this picture going to go, that the text is going to look good, and that you won't have you won't be cutting off in the middle of a paragraph and then go to 2 full-page images and then continue that same paragraph, because otherwise people are going to get lost and lose their train of thought.
Yeah.
I'm like, so ebooks are definitely something that I need to put more thought into. And going into December, going into the new year, that's going to be one of my top priorities, is just playing around with layout more and putting something together. Just take a couple months, write something up that I can be proud of, that's focused on one topic, spend that time to really nail everything down in the layout of and present it how I want it to, and see what happens with that when I push it out in the world. Because ultimately, who knows, like, I could do 2 ebooks a year, say, and do print sales and everything, and I could eventually make enough money to actually survive, at least how I'm living right now, and then go from there continuously. But who knows?
Yeah. Another thing I was thinking, which relates to the topic, is you're talking about how, you'll look back at some point at the amount of time that you have right now, and it might be kind of looking back at that. I was thinking about, when we look back a few years, looking back towards the pandemic, and there are so many people that are like, man, if only I had time to do this or do that, I would totally do that.
Yeah.
But so many people, when they had the time, they didn't do that.
Oh, I wasted so much time during the pandemic. I didn't get, I was laid off from work, and I didn't get anything accomplished at all that I wanted to.
Yeah. Here's the thing though, like, my wife and I look back at that time and we're kind of like, we need to build a time machine. We need to go back. Because obviously there was horrible things that happened, and, a lot of people died and everything. But like my wife and I she was able to work from home. We kind of look back at that time where it was just kind of like, it was nice. It was, it was kind of a good thing. From our perspective.
From a selfish perspective, right there.
Yes. Yeah. And I was thinking back to, we're thinking back to, what was like the best and the worst days of the pandemic for us and our own experience with that. I at that point I had decided to quit my job. So I was doing my own thing, at least kind of feeling things out a little bit. My wife was still fully employed. She was working from home. But the best day of the pandemic, I think it was in July or August. It was 100 something degrees. And I took my kayak and I put it on the back lawn. It's a tiny little lawn we have back there, barely enough to fit the kayak. I filled it with water and I just went out there and I was reading a book in my kayak that was filled with water. And then at one point, my wife poked her head out the sliding glass door and she says, "Do you want some pie?" And so she brought me a slice of this blueberry cream pie that we had delivered to us. And it was also, I think, the same day that our the portfolio, the 2020 portfolio pre-orders went live. So I had like some orders coming in from that. And I was just sitting in my flooded kayak eating pie and having like the notifications of orders coming in. I'm like, this is the life. This is good. But yeah, that amidst all the tragedy of everything going on. But yeah, there is that thing about, so many things where people say, if only I had more time, I would do this. But it seems like it's seldom the case that people will actually do that. It's kind of like this dream that they have. But there are so many things that get in the way of that.
Yeah. Yeah. On a completely other random note, since it's also on my mind today, and we'll probably end off with this real quick, but I posted on my Instagram story today a photo because I ordered printer paper, just 8.5, 11-inch printer paper.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. The Honeymule, right?
Yeah. The photo rag that I use for all of my prints. I love how that works with black and white photos. That matte finish is just really nice. And I got the box in from B&H Photo, and it's a sizable box. And I'm like, I know what's in it. It's just my paper. It's strictly a 8.5 by 11-inch or so sized box inside of this big box. And I'm like, really? So posted the photo to the story or whatever, posted to my story and said something along the lines of, nothing like a giant box and a ton of plastic wrap for an 8.5 by 11-inch box of paper. Way to look out for the planet, B&H. And I tagged them in it just because I'm like, I'm just going to be sassy about this because what are they going to do? Like, it's not like I have a partnership with them or anything like that. It's not like there's no consequence for me for doing this. And I just wanted to have fun with it. And they actually got back to me. They sent me a message on Instagram. And it's just some generic, like, just something to be like, hey, we at least saw what you posted, whatever.
Yeah.
And it goes, "Hi, Cody. My sincerest apologies that your package arrived like this. We, of course, always want to ensure that your order arrives to you safely and without bends, folds, or rips, but I also understand your frustration. If you'd like to speak with a supervisor on this matter, please feel welcome to email," and then they give an email, "with any images of your package that you'd like to include. They can help communicate this feedback with our warehouse team to hopefully be better moving forward. I appreciate the tag, although I apologize for the conditions that come with it." I'm like, I can't help but laugh at a response like that.
Yeah.
Because I know that, like, obviously me posting something or even going so far as to email a supervisor about it, like, it's not going to do anything. We're talking about a big company here, like, just the same as doing something like to Amazon like this. I mean, it'd be great if they listened to that kind of feedback and didn't use so much plastic wrap, if they changed how they package things. But at the same time, they're in the business of making money. And I did research for around all this kind of thing and like shipping and the like 1 and 2 day shipping and the environmental impacts that had back for a college course. And it's just, like I said, it's all about, we have all these boxes that we buy in bulk, and it's cheaper for us to use this big box for a small item and shove a bunch of plastic wrap in it than it is for us to buy specific size boxes for specific items. Yeah. So I get it.
You'd think they would have some more flatter sort of boxes, for that purpose, or some other creative way of shipping it. Because that is, I would love to get to a point when they don't have to use that plastic, the little air pillow sort of things in the shipments. And I know that there's other ways of doing stuff, whether it's like some crumpled paper and this and that. And some places are pretty good about that. But yeah, with the amount of that sort of stuff where, I get orders, whether it's B&H or other places, and, I'm cutting up the boxes to put them in the recycling. And then I have just like these feather boas full of these, plastic air pillows that are just, smothering me. I do like to dress for the occasion when I tear up those cardboard boxes. Yes. Well, wearing spandex. Yeah. Just continuing with the mental images.
Yeah.
It does seem like there should be some ways of having some efficiency there, whatever that may be. But yeah, I mean, I have a box by my door right now that is basically the same way. I haven't opened it yet, but there is some 8.5 by 11. I think I have some paper in there, and it's, it's I could fit several pairs of shoes in that box.
Yeah.
And so
it's just a shame when you think of like all these different companies that are doing it. Like for Nintendo, when I first got the Nintendo Switch a couple of years ago, and got my first physical game for it, and it's this sizable like DVD sized box that it comes in, and it's a little like cartridge about the size of my thumb. Nothing else is in there. It's just this one game cartridge in the box there. I'm like, why are you using such a big box when you have like the Nintendo DS that is a much smaller CD sized box that it would fit more or fit better in and be less wasteful? Like, it's just, I don't know. It all goes around, and it just makes me think of how I want to ship any prints or folios or anything that I'm plan on selling or making. And like, as much as I would love to do, I think Simon Baxter does it still, where each of his prints comes in a real nice box, beautiful presentation. But at the end of the day, people are going to take the print out and throw the box away most of the time. So I don't know. Yeah.
When I worked at the camera store, way back when point and shoots were actually something that people would buy, Canon, we sold a lot of Canon point and shoots, and they came in, pretty good sized boxes. And the cameras started getting smaller and smaller, but the boxes remain the same size. And some of that might just be a matter of, they have relationships with the box makers. They already have the designs. They just cut and paste the new designs, for the printing for the new boxes and that. But eventually the boxes started getting smaller and smaller, until the point where, the last time they really had point and shoots, they were like about the size of like the box that maybe like an iPhone would come in.
Right.
And so they were responding pretty well to that, because also from the standpoint of, how many of these are you going to fit in a carton, and how many of these are you going to fit like in a shipping container and this and that, where you're just, transporting so much more inventory. So that was probably their motivation, as opposed to, environmental sort of stuff. But like when I pack my print portfolios, all the materials I use can be recycled. So it's basically, there's an outer box and an inner box, and then I wrap the portfolio in some tissue paper. So all that can be recycled. But when it comes to the zine, I actually had to pay a fair amount more to make the zines using recycled paper. Because for me, that was an important part of the process. And, you could use the regular papers, this and that, but it was the premium paper was the recycled paper. And so I think for a lot of things, it takes having, you have to have sort of the willpower to do that. Like, I'm going to be giving up profit, but I'm going to produce something that is probably a little bit better for the environment in that standpoint. And not all companies are doing that. I will say though, in general, packaging seems to be getting better. Like if you look at like an iPhone packaging, a lot of it's just like paperboard packaging and stuff, as opposed to like these hideous big plastic inserts and stuff, like, things used to come in all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's decisions that we have to go out of our way to do, in order to do things that are hopefully a little better for the environment. I hope you enjoyed our creative banter. You can learn more about Cody's work by visiting his website, codyschultz.com. And you can find my work at benhorn.com. For further discussion, join us at patreon.com/creativebanter. It's a place where we can interact with you, the listener. And although we greatly appreciate those who contribute by joining a tier, discussions are open to everyone, whether you're a paying member or not. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you around next time.